All right, so let's talk about de-escalation, right? De-escalating of a conflict and relationship with someone. Before we begin, I want to go over a quote that I found today that I think may or may not be relevant to what we're going to talk about today. So the quote is, resolving differences isn't about finding common ground. It's also about understanding and respecting each other's perspectives, each other's form of communicating effectively or not, and finding a solution. So when I found that quote, I thought back over my life and in different relationships. And I think there was something that really stood out to me prior to really diving into self-improvement in my own life, right? So prior to really going on my journey of becoming a coach and helping and supporting people in relationships specifically, I had this sort of tone. I didn't realize it at the time. Like it was just a blind spot that I had, that I really found it on my own. But it was really this need to be right, this righteousness, this I always call the voice in my head is bossy pants because it has like a bossiness to it. It has an undertone of must be right. I am right. But what it really did is it created this tug of war in a lot of relationships. This kind of invisible tug of war, right? Me being right and taking a position, taking a stance. It almost kind of creates this image of being in a boxing ring or tug of war back from elementary school. But when I really learned and created this presence in relationships and conversations and communication with people that are close to me and I love and care about, in a way that I dropped the rope, right? I dropped the tug of war rope and I really want to listen to what the other person has to say. And I come from the presence of they're right. And it could be only 2% right. But I feel like if I look for that 2%, then I become curious to understand their perspective, their opinion, their view, what they're seeing, what they're experiencing on whatever that topic is that we're maybe having a little bit of a disagreement about or a different way of looking at it. So, anyways, through my journey of self-discovery and improvement, I've learned to have an open mind, seek to understand, learn to ask really good questions. And so that's what surfaces for me. So we are here today with Sarah. Sarah has volunteered to be coach today on the topic of relationships and possibly conflict or de-escalation. So I want to ask you, Sarah, is there anything that you need before we begin that offers you a space of safety and whatever you need that maybe can make this as comfortable as possible?
No, we can just dive right in. So do you want me to just explain the situation or?
Yeah, go ahead and
Okay.
explain the
Okay.
context.
So the context is the relationship with my youngest daughter. And to give a little background, her dad, who I was with for almost 20 years, he was very verbally and mentally abusive to all of us. So there's a lot of trauma behind it. And I've been able to connect with my other daughters and like work through these issues, and we have a good relationship in that. I've tried to have the same relationship with my youngest daughter. And it is not worked out. It always becomes to this escalated situation, her getting very defensive, and I have in the past been that way too. It used to be a both getting defensive, where I've taken a step back from that as I started doing my understanding and loving myself kind of journey last year. Um, so I had taken a step back from that. And so I've really been just trying to have this good relationship with her and communicate better with her. Um, it doesn't matter how I go about it though. You know, trying to just listen, let her vent out her things, give advice, whatever. It just becomes escalated. She always feels attacked if I'm trying to give her advice on things. You know, she always just turns the situation around in any kind of conversation we have, unless it's a light, airy kind of conversation, joking. That's the only time we have good conversation. Other than that, it always seems to be escalated, and I used to escalate back. But now what I do is, okay, I'm done with this conversation because it's become escalated, and then I walk away, but nothing ever gets resolved. We don't come back to it, and even if we do, it becomes escalated again. And there's a lot of her not seeing any outside, like she feels like the only person that experienced this. She feels isolated and not connected with myself or her sisters. And I don't know, I really try to fix that. I want her to feel like she is here with us, you know, and we value her in our lives. And but her perspective, I guess, for a lack of any other words, is different than the reality. But it's her perspective, so it's her reality. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't know, you know, I've done a lot of things for her that I haven't done for my other daughters. You know, like I co-signed for her for an apartment that she then cost me a lot of debt, and I'm working two jobs because of that. But I try not to be the person to like throw that in her face, but she takes no accountability for this whole situation because the boyfriend was involved, and she thinks it's all on him. She doesn't take any kind of accountability in it, but I let her come stay with me afterwards, you know, but she'll tell everybody that's listening that I don't care, love her. And I don't know how to change her perspective in that, or to have this good relationship with her, where we can talk about the things that she's hurting or feeling, her perspective on things, without it becoming escalated, and then me ultimately just walking away and being done with that conversation, and then it never getting resolved. Like I want there to be a resolution for us and to have a better, healthier relationship together.
Mhm. Okay. So
Looking
what
for
could,
some more tools.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what could we do in the next 30 minutes that would offer the bridge to that resolution? What could we do within our time and a good 30 minutes that you could walk away with that would help you in being able to talk to her and find a resolution?
Being able, once she gets to that escalated state, because once you're at the escalated state, you're not listening to anything.
So I'm going to
You're
stop you.
hearing nothing.
What I want to help you with is you. I'm not coaching her, so I want to be able to coach you. So it's something
Yes.
that so what can we do in a sentence or a question? So it could be either a powerful sentence or a question that we can work towards in our time.
That's actually where I was going with
Okay.
that, is once she gets to that escalated situation, how can I bring it back down so we can have a productive conversation and actually work through the issue that we're talking about? Like, how can I bring that back down? You know, once I see that it's becoming escalated, how do I bring it back down without just walking away?
So I'm curious, would it be beneficial to have a way to prevent it from even escalating?
And that, like, I mean, I'm open. Maybe it's something in the way I'm communicating. Maybe there's just a, you know, a gap in the way she's understanding what I'm saying to her, possibly, or how I'm coming about what I'm saying. I'm not sure, you know, exactly where this, it just, she automatically just feels attacked and escalated, and it becomes emotional, and she's crying and she's yelling and mad, and I don't want it to even be at that point. I want us to have this good conversation. I want her to feel heard and valued in her perspective, how she's viewing it, even if I don't see it the same way. I want her to feel validated in those feelings, and be able to work through them and work through those issues together, you know.
So I want to clarify, just to be sure, because it sounds like you're looking for a way to prevent escalation in our time today. Would that be, to
Yeah.
summarize? Okay. And interestingly enough, in language today, with the context, the background, I heard over and over again, wanting to fix it, wanting to change, wanting things to be different. Fix it, fix it, fix it was mentioned many times. And then just here at the end, you're wanting her to feel heard, valued, and validated. Those are two different things. So there's a conflict there. They're wanting to fix her, which lands for her.
Or just fix the issues within our relationship.
Right. What creates escalation typically, though, is when someone feels like you're fixing them, which means lands for them that they're broken, they need fixed, they're not good enough, which is the worst feeling on the planet.
Yeah.
So having someone feel heard, valued, and validated is the polar opposite. So how would, let's just put a bookmark on your relationship with your daughter. We're going to come back to that. I just want to have, just kind of open up some perspective here. How do you feel heard, valued, and validated? How would you describe that?
For me personally, is just being able to vent out how I feel, like tell somebody how I feel, and them acknowledging those feelings. Sometimes I want advice depending on the situation. It just depends. But them really just knowing finding out what it is that I need in that moment, whether it's just to be heard, or I'm seeking advice, whatever it may be. That's how I feel, just being able to speak about and not being cut off, and being able to just say fully what it is that I'm feeling.
Beautifully put. So in a conversation with a friend or someone that you're close to, if there's something that's weighing on your mind, that's bothering you, you want to be able to just barf it out. You want to be able to vent it out, air it, get it out of your head, get it out into the space. You're wanting whoever you're talking to listen to you deeply, acknowledge what you said in a way that maybe they reflect it back, like they say a summary of what they're hearing. And it might be different words than what you used. It might be just a paragraph or a sentence or two. You're wanting them to acknowledge and reflect back what you've said, correct? Anything else on that part?
No, that's really, for me, that helps me. Most of the time, I just keep things to myself. Honestly, I work internally. I don't go to a lot of outside sources. The only time I go outside is when I feel like I'm too much in my head, and I may be being irrational in my thought, and need that outside perspective to kind of help rein me in, or just tell me, well, no, you're not being irrational, that's valid thought, or, well, yeah, you're being a little irrational here, you know based on the situation you're telling me, so that's really where I'm at with that.
So when you're venting and wanting to get feedback, right? That's probably what I would call that. when you're wanting to get feedback or advice, if you're being rational or irrational, would it be fair to say that you would ask for that? Like, look, I want to vent this out and I want your opinion. I want you to give me feedback. I want you to give me advice. Here's what's going on.
Yes.
Okay. So you, in a conversation, in a healthy conversation where you're wanting advice, where you're wanting feedback, where you're wanting to know if I'm irrational or irrational, there's an ask there. It's very clear. It's stated. This is what I need. This is what I'm looking for. It's beyond feeling heard, seen, valued, validated. It's, I want feedback. I want your perspective given to me. Okay. And so you state what you need. Okay. I want to go back to what we're wanting to achieve in our time today. And you're wanting to prevent escalation in a dialogue, in a conversation with your daughter. So what could you give me just one tiny example of something that maybe recently happened or something that might be coming up that we can, in a short context, explain the situation?
So recently, we were having a conversation about basically she was staying with me, and I've since moved. But she was staying with me, and she gets food assistance from the state. She's not paying anything into the household. She's not working. Okay. I'm taking care of her and her two children. So I asked, the least you can do is put your food into the house to help. That's the least you can do. She decided to take, within 2 days of getting her food benefits, she spent them all and none in the house. And so I was, upset by that. And I tried to talk to her about that. I was like, that really is not right. And I tried to make her look at it. Like, I was like, what would you do if I wasn't here? If I wasn't here, like, what would you do? How would you have fed your children? How would you, if you didn't have me, what would you have done? And she was like, I don't know, but it took a long time to get to that point where she like caught that. She tried to divert the conversation. She tried to like bring up other things that had nothing to do with it, past things. She got emotional and started crying and yelling and screaming. And, and she just felt, I think she felt attacked. I don't know that, but I think she felt attacked. But I simply just was like, why would you do that? You know that we need food in this house. Like, why are all your food stamps gone? Like, why would you do that? Like, I shouldn't have to pay for everything. It's not my job to support you and your children. And she just instantly felt attacked in that. Got very defensive, and then started like throwing different things from the past, got emotional, started crying.
Okay. So what a great example. I can see, based on what you're giving me, the context and the story in this example, I can see very clearly what you're thinking and believing would make you feel upset. Very valid. Makes total sense. What you're thinking and what you're believing would make anyone upset. I also can clearly see how what she's thinking and believing, what we presume, right? I don't know everything and I'm not talking to her, but I can see how what she's thinking and believing would make her defensive. Anytime someone asks me Why did you do that? Why did you dress like that? Why did you not do the dishes? Why did you drive like that? Why is a very creates defensiveness instantly. And I don't even know if you use that word, but it was said about 8
I
times.
did. I did use that word. And so
The dirty
maybe
word.
that's the key right there is the way and that's what I was saying is maybe it's the way I'm approaching or the words that I'm using. And that's why I wanted to do this Zoom because, then it can point out maybe things that I'm doing that are causing the escalation.
Yep.
And her to become defensive and then switching throwing things in that have nothing to do with it.
Exactly. So you're both pulling on the rope. She feels like she's right. We don't know fully what she's thinking and believing, right? We don't know 100%, but everyone's feelings are valid. Why? Because where do your feelings come from? From your thoughts. It's the thoughts, your beliefs, your opinions, your views, your experiences, your justifications, your excuses. Just like your feelings are valid because of what you're thinking and believing in that moment. So when feeling upset, when you feel the start of that feeling of feeling upset, the start of that, that's an alarm. That's an alert. That's a smoke alarm beeping. Beep, 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 beep. Before words come out of your mouth, it's this acknowledgement and awareness. I feel upset right now. There's something happening in my world, in my environment that's creating this yucky feeling inside of me. Would you agree? People, places, things, situations, and circumstances can't make you feel upset. What's making you feel upset?
I'm perceiving the situation.
Thoughts again. The thoughts, the stories, the movies, the images that are going in your mind, the thoughts and belief, I wouldn't do that. That's righteousness. That's
It's
believing that you're right and she's wrong. So guess what? She's instantly going to be defensive. Instantly. Your energy comes into the room before your body does. So you told me over and over again, I want to feel heard, valued, and validated, and so does she. She wants to feel seen, heard, and important. Another way to word it, right? Same thing. So let's reel back to that situation again prior to doing or saying anything and noticing that feeling of upsetness. Could you give me 10 words on how you want to feel instead?
oh 10
Positive,
words.
positive words.
Yes. Well, it would be positive because that's how I like to live my life is being positive about situations. um no, that's hard, like, because I don't know how I could change
Okay, I'm going to stop you.
the feelings there.
So I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
Just notice, just notice that hardness. Just notice it with curiosity and like wild childlike curiosity that, it feels hard and I'm thinking it's hard and now I'm saying it's hard. Guess what? It's going to be hard. It's going to be impossible. Your brain is going to shut down. You're going to stay in the left side of your brain, which is survival mode. That's where fear, anger, upset, disappointed, frustrated lives. And we just stay there, right? Our negative biased mind is like, oh, we got to protect Sarah. We got to protect her. We got to guard her. So we're going to ramp up, protection mode. So when I ask, how do you want to feel? It's really about moving into a good feeling. It's taking a deep breath, It's activating one of your five senses, which is sight, smell, taste, hearing, or touch. So it might be wiggling your toes. It might be taking a couple deep breaths, right? And I want you to answer from your heart and your soul, from how you want to live your life, not what Catherine wants to hear. They don't need to be big words. They could be small words. They could be how you want to live your life, what your values are, what your morals, what your principles are. Sometimes when we slow down and activate one of our senses, some people it's smell, right? I love beautiful scents. So in all my spaces throughout the house, my car, and any environment that I go in, there's something smelly. I also have something that activates taste, right? Something sour and something spicy usually. But I have, like, visually, I have things in every single one of my spaces that I enjoy. I have this plant right now that I look at. Like, when I look at it, it really brings nature into my environment. It allows me to relax. Sometimes if, like, I'm in the dentist chair leaning back, it's really hard to activate one of your senses, but sometimes I'll wiggle my toes. Actually, that's usually what I do. Wiggle my toes when I think about my dog Tux, right? He brings a good feeling. It allows me to access the right side of my brain, and it allows me to answer that question very powerfully. How do I want to feel right now? Like in the dentist chair, I would want to feel taken care of. I want to feel safe. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel calm. I want to feel patient. I want to feel warm. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel at ease. I want to feel supported. Do you see how when I really learn to use my brain for its full capacity and slow down and answer how I want to feel in that moment, I can come up with words. So I'm going to ask you that again. Your daughter's sitting there in the room, in the space, you're with her. There's a thought that goes into your mind that she's done something that seems interesting, seems like something that you're not sure what the reasoning is for her doing what she did. Notice how I didn't use the word why. So in order to move into a space of her feeling heard, valued, and validated, and also in any relationship, it's like a dance. If you want to feel heard, valued, and validated, you have to put that out first, right? You're leading in the dance. So again, I'm going to ask you, how do you want to feel when
I would
about
like to feel calm and understanding. Um, inquisitive, I guess, about where her thought process was in her decision.
okay, let's stick with single words. So we've got calm, understanding, inquisitive.
Um,
Say it again. Keep going.
um, I guess for this particular situation, nurturing, you
Mm.
know, um, I would want to give that feeling of that nurturing, um, non-accusatory.
Brain doesn't understand the double negative.
Um, well, that really falls in understanding, anyways. Uh, can you remind me? I said inquisitive, understanding, compassionate. Um,
Just notice how your brain is resisting.
it
Joking.
is. It is. I see that.
Yeah.
It it's it's doing it. I can feel it.
Gently thank your brain for helping you and serving you. And you don't have to use those words. but it's just really about relaxing into that and going, oh, I hear you, brain and mind, two different things. I hear you, brain and mind, wanting to go back to my old pattern, my old way of doing things. I'm wanting to see things differently. So right now, I want to come from a place of X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, fill in the blank. How you want to navigate this conversation that you want to have with your daughter. So what words rise to the top to you on how you what and maybe even using what I talked about earlier is what energy you want to receive back from her. What are some words to describe that you want to get back from her?
Would be, I guess, welcoming, because when you're feeling welcoming, it, you, the guard comes down.
Okay.
I already said compassionate. I'm just trying to think back of what I've said, so I'm not repeating words.
And if you repeat words, that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just really that calm, patient, understanding, welcoming kind of attitude. Um, you know, uh, the listening ears on kind of thing. Um, so, just making her feel like she can talk to me calmly. Because if I'm reflecting that, then she is gonna maybe hopefully come at me calmly.
We mirror each other. I'm waving at you. See? Notice that?
Yeah,
We mirror
yeah,
each other. So
yeah.
I led the dance, you followed. All right, so I'm going to read back your words. We need one more. And I want one that really comes from your soul, comes from your bone marrow, from your deep within your body. You've said words earlier. You said a lot of beautiful, amazing, energy, powerful words. So we need to find one more. So calm, understanding, inquisitive, passionate, nurturing, compassionate, welcoming, patient, listening.
And with love.
Ooh, ooh. So which one has the most energy behind it? Which one has the most charge behind it that gives you that the meaning behind the words is grand, that's deep, that's rich? Which one has the greatest?
Love, coming at it with love.
Okay.
you know um because if you feel that somebody's coming from a good place, a safe place,
Mm,
then you're not going to feel attacked.
okay. Know that what I'm pointing you towards is learning to use language, not just in the words that you say, but the words that you think that are what you want more of. And notice when statements or words pop up of what you don't want, just like what just happened right there. Notice with kindness, with grace, with compassion to yourself, to stick to, again, what you're wanting more of. How do I want to feel? Right? It's learning to train your brain to look at what you're wanting to feel more of. Because what ends up happening is when we go back to the polarity, I don't want this, but I want that. You're stuck in this paradigm of using your old tricks and ways of languaging.
So really focusing more on what I want instead of what I don't want.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just noticing that it's a habit and there's no finish line to being perfect. It's about just learning to notice and learning to correct it in the moment and going, oh, there I go again. Thank you, brain. Thank you, mind, for bringing that up. That's an old way of seeing things or thinking about things or saying things. So it's about correcting and noticing in the moment. because our brain is like an old 1980s computer. We've got to learn to train it to work for us rather than work against us. And it's so simple that we want to use words and powerful language of what we want more of in our life. So if in the moment, live in the moment, it just became in your attention, it just became something that you realize that there's this perception that she spent all the money and didn't bring food into the house, and you want to have a conversation with her, what would be the outcome or the agenda you would want at the end?
Us to leave that both feeling heard and understood, and with a resolution, and understanding that that was not something, that where the uh, just an understanding, and like her understanding where I'm coming from, but me also understanding where she came from, what her thought was in that, in what she, did. And
So notice that your agenda is that you want to be understood. So this goes back again to the dance of human communication. If you lead with wanting her to feel heard, seen, important, validated, and valued, it's removing the need and the demand and the dictatorship of I must be heard, I must be understood. We've got
right.
to let that go, because here's the reality is if you still have that in the agenda, she's going to feel it. Because
I
remember,
want to
she
teach her
knows
how
you.
to be more responsible, through that. You know,
Agenda again.
I know it's an agenda. I know. And it's hard to get away from that, because I know that it doesn't really matter what I say or do, because she's her own person, and she's going to take what she wants from it, perceive it how she wants. Um, I but as a mother, it's hard to not want to guide your children in the right direction, right? That's one of the hardest things.
If you believe it's hard, it will be hard. If you believe you can't talk to her, then you won't in a healthy way. It is possible.
I know it is, and it's just about changing the approach.
Exactly. So how are you going to change the approach?
First, when the situation arises, if
And it
I
will.
notice, which it will, um, uh, when I notice the negative feeling, I'm gonna take a moment. I'm gonna pause that breath. I'm gonna think about the things, so that I can then approach it without the emotion in it. Um,
What about the word that was the most energetic out of the 10 words?
and approach it with love. Yes.
Without an agenda.
Yes, without an agenda.
So again, the brain will want the brain doesn't understand that. I said that for a reason, because I wanted to point it out. So what would be the opposite of approaching her without an agenda? So what would the approach be? It'd be approaching her with love and fill in the blank.
And trying to understand.
Yeah. How about we drop try?
Understanding. Yes. Love and understanding.
Ooh. So asking questions with what and how.
So I guess instead of the way I approached it, saying, why would you do this? I could have approached it with, I'm just trying to understand what your thoughts were when you made the decision to spend your food stamps on your friends instead of putting them into the home?
Okay.
I want to
So
understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
again, that's accusatory. How I can see accusatory is
Yeah.
the word you.
Okay.
Because that's, again, we're back in the tug of war again. You're back in the boxing ring. You, it's finger pointing. You, it's blaming. You did this. That's all she hears. She doesn't hear all the other words. You. So it's about learning how to bring up this topic in a loving, understanding way. It's using childlike curiosity with the situation. And sometimes if we can't find a way to bring it up without a why or a you or demanding or finger pointing or blaming, then don't bring it up. Right? It's using your resources. If you have a therapist or a coach or people that love and care about you and maybe understand the situation a little bit, is role playing or figuring out, journaling, writing, or recording on your phone, a way to bring the topic up and practice in a way that doesn't make you right and her wrong or set you on two different positions, right? Because when we position and say, why did you do this? You
Yeah.
did. I mean, it puts division, it lowers the goodwill in your guys' relationship, right? And goodwill is a warm feeling towards one another. It's a safety to be able to talk about anything. And what I know very little about this situation, but I feel like the goodwill is very low. So in order to raise goodwill in the relationship and build trust and build this capacity and this container to be able to speak and talk about anything is really coming from love. Having childlike curiosity is, and I don't want to give you examples or situations. I want you to learn to be able to come up with questions on your own that come from that place, because I know you can and I know you will. So again, it's removing that agenda. It's about really
Just saying something like, I want to understand uh, what led to this decision so that we can find a solution.
yeah. How does that land for you?
It felt a little weird, but it felt good too. Like, just because that's ultimately what I want, is us to have this good relationship where we can communicate in a healthy manner. I don't want her to feel attacked because, often a lot of conversations that are serious with us end up in I'm her saying, I'm just a piece of crap and nobody cares about me and blah, 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 which I understand fully as a lot of manipulation, but it is her perspective.
She
It's
feels
how she feels inwardly. Um, and then, and then, in the past was a lot of like, no, that's not the case, and blah 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 blah, and trying to make her feel better, and then being taken off topic altogether. um
so
I want to be able to stay in it.
I'm curious about the last
Mm.
suggestion, stating it in a way that it kind of sounds like you're wanting a solution right here and right now. So again, I
Well, that
think that
it's not a right here right now, but if we can build the tools together to kind of, because everything takes time, it's not a right here right now all the time.
what if the come from is in a loving way, again keeping in that loving way, and again leading with wanting to feel heard, valued, and validated, is Say, I have something that's weighing on my mind, and I want to be able to talk about it openly. I'm really needing some help and support with food, and I'm curious where we stand with that. Maybe some sort of language like that points to not looking for a solution, is not, an end game or a finish line. It's about opening up a dialogue. I need
Making her
support.
feel some power in the situation, that maybe she's feeling helpless. So yeah, giving her that power or control to then do something that maybe, even though she, in my opinion, should have been doing it already.
Notice where your mind goes on that, because she's going to feel that energy. Those shoulds, she's going to feel it.
Yeah. And but removing that, but I'm just saying that that's my personal perspective.
Again,
And
notice it and get rid of it.
yep. Yep.
Everybody wants agency. Everyone wants and feels safety and having control over their own life decisions. When someone comes in and says, nope, you got to do it this way, they feel bulldozed over. And it may not be your intention. But again, when I asked you earlier, what is your outcome? What is your agenda? There was agenda in there. Letting go of an outcome, letting go of an agenda opens up the line of communication. It will start to build goodwill and trust in your relationship. So we really went over a lot. How did we do in navigating the prevention of escalation?
We did well, because I think it's going to be a training thing for me, and but I am going to start with just taking a deep breath and walking away from the situation when I notice that I'm upset by it, and analyzing, and then filling myself with the way I want to approach the situation, so that when I do, then it doesn't become escalated. That,
How does it feel when someone walks away from you when you're wanting to have a conversation? Say it again.
I do not like that.
Bingo.
And I know that she doesn't, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to make her feel not heard, because that's exactly the what's coming off. And also, then we get nowhere.
Bingo.
We get nowhere.
So and that's how anxiety builds, is when we avoid and walk away from things. Okay. We need to go into the fire. We need to face this, learn from it, and really take your shoes off and ground your feet into love, compassion, empathy, understanding, calmness, inquisitiveness, being passionate, nurturing, all of these words. Stay. Walking away, it erodes away the goodwill. It erodes away trust. It also exhibits and models the behavior of avoidance. So stay with her and be honest and say, look, I'm learning. I'm going to practice right here and right now, loving you, hearing you, validating you, because what you're thinking and believing is real to you. And I want to understand what you're thinking and believing in this topic. I want to understand, because it's real to you. So how are you going to approach moving forward with your daughter?
That I'm going to approach it with love and understanding, compassion, um, curiosity, you know.
Ooh. So you're going to stay in the conversation. Yeah.
Conversation, um, even if it becomes escalated. Um, I'm just going to be quiet and let her say her piece. Probably going to ask her what her thought is or feeling behind the thoughts that she's having. Where is, where are you coming from in this? Like, what's the feeling behind it?
And how can I support you? Right? So how can I support you? That gives her agency, that gives her the skin in the game, that gives her control or power over the decisions in her life versus you dictating and demanding it. So what was an aha moment?
Just noticing the difference between the the two approaches. It's definitely drastic, and it may or may not work with her. I can't control that. All I can do is try and keep showing her
We're going to drop the
that,
try.
well, all I can do is put in that effort and show her that difference and um, go from there.
So vulnerability is what really drops the walls in a relationship. Being vulnerable and saying, you know what, I've been going about conversations with you in a way that I'm realizing has built up a defensive mirroring. You don't have to use the word mirroring, but the way I've been approaching conversations with you has really sparked a lot of defensiveness. And I want to apologize for that. Not saying you need to do this.
Right.
The thing is when we're vulnerable and admit that we're not perfect, that we're working on this, and being able to establish maybe some sort of, I don't want to call it a rule because some people have a negative connotation with rules, but if at any point in time in our conversation you're feeling like you have to defend yourself, can we have a safe word? Can we have raise a red flag and say, Mom, I'm feeling like I have to defend myself? And it go both ways, right? Create an agreement, a vocal agreement between the two of you, that you both agree that this is something that you both want to work on, that you both find important, that you both want to rebuild goodwill, that you both want to establish a healthy relationship, and that you both are, it's going to be a little clunky. And being able to fall on your sword and say, you know what, I'm sorry. I want to take that back. I just asked a question that if I would have been asked of me, that I would be defensive. Can I reword this? Can you give me a second to reword this?
Yeah.
Asking permission to be vulnerable. Are you open to that? Yeah. Okay. So what would be an action step to move forward in approaching your daughter with love, calmness, passionate, curiosity, love? So what would be an action step that you can take in the next day or two that's small, doable, and you're willing to take that step forward?
I guess, like, when we're in that conversation is just maybe telling her, uh, making sure I'm clarifying that I'm understanding by reiterating. So then that's going to make her feel validated and heard. Um, when I'm taking that time to just kind of say back to her, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying
Here's what I hear.
correctly. This is what I'm hearing. Is this what,
What you,
is this what you meant?
yeah,
Or am I, perceiving this incorrectly?
beautiful. Yeah, because it's really about, I might be misunderstanding this. It's amazing that we could communicate anyways. Like it's crazy about communication. Like communication is such a, like I'll say something, but I mean, I might say a sentence, but what I mean is like 40 paragraphs long and really rich and means a lot. It's just so funny. It's so funny. I went to the nail salon. This was years ago, but I had a nail that broke. I actually had 3 break within a week, and this was the 3rd nail that broke. I went into the nail salon. I'm the only patron in the store, and all the nail techs are there, like 5 of them. They don't speak very good English. I walk in the door and I'm holding up another finger, my ring finger, broken nail, and they all start talking in their native language, whatever, and then they start pointing, and then a couple of them start laughing, a couple of them point, they laugh, they're pointing and laughing at me, boom, 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 and I'm standing there going, my natural default said, they're making fun of me, they're laughing at me. And in that moment, I thought, oh, I don't like that feeling. But I want to have ownership of how I experience the next 1, 2, 3 minutes, an hour, whatever. I want to have ownership. I want agency. I want to have that. I want to feel safe. I want to feel cared for. I want to feel respected. I want to feel pampered. I want to feel really good. I want to feel as though, I'm here as a patron, and I'm getting taken care of. And so right after the laughing, the pointing, the gal that usually does my nails, she waved me over. She fixed my nail, didn't charge me, which she did for the other 2. And then they gave me a Christmas gift. This is around the holidays. I think it was like 3 years ago around Christmas. They gave me a Christmas gift. It was a bag and it had all kinds of really cool stuff in it. And I walked away really learning a lot from that experience because I have no idea what they were saying. But again, notice how my perception, I was projecting outwards that they're laughing at me, they're making fun of me, and I have no clue what they were saying. I was making meaning out of something that was probably very innocent, maybe, maybe not, and it doesn't matter. 3 years later, I still go to the same place. So we project outwards all sorts of things. We make meaning out of all kinds of things. And then we could be reactive, right? I could flip them off and leave and go someplace else. And it would ruin my day, maybe my week. And maybe I'd have months of trying to find another nail tech that I connect with, right? So when we take ownership of our reality, when we realize how our brain and mind can create an illusion and it can make us feel angry and upset, the drop of a hat, it's having that awareness and going, you know what? That's an alarm. That's an alert. This is something that needs healing and repaired. If this happens, if I feel this negative emotion and I notice it, pivot, and approach this in a different way a few times, it'll be my new default. It'll be my new blueprint. It'll be my new way of approaching things versus running away, leaving the situation, demanding that it go my way, having an agenda. Doesn't land well with anyone. So I want to thank you, Sarah, for volunteering.
Thank you for having me and talking with me about this. So
Yeah. I hear from the beginning and all throughout how important it is for you to have a bond, a connection, and have a relationship with your daughter. Will she do things the way you would do things? No, because she's her own unique human being and she's going to make mistakes. She's going to do things that you wouldn't do, and let her.
That probably is through this whole thing. One thing that I'm realizing is that I am still probably looking at her like I would never do that and expecting having that expectation because I wouldn't do it. Why is she doing it?
Because she's being rebellious, and that's what.
And she's being her own person. She is not going to do things the way that I do it. And it doesn't, um, and I just need to approach it by understanding, you know, where she's coming from instead of where I would come from or my expectation of how she should. I can't hold her to my standards
with
of
every
myself.
with everything, there's two ways to go about things. Change it, right? You can't change her. I'm
No,
sorry. I'm just going to tell you,
no,
you just can't change
no,
her. So
I
the
can't.
only thing you can change is how you think and feel and respond. And if you can't find anything to change, then it's acceptance, making peace with what is, and let her be in her own lane. It's her life, her reality, her mistakes. She will learn from her mistakes. She will learn that way. Some people have to learn the hard way over and over and over and over and over again. And then they come to you and go, man, I had a crazy week. Oh,
Yeah.
share with me and
Yeah.
just listen
Mm-hmm.
versus fixing her and wanting to change her. That language that was used over and over and over and over again. I want to fix her. I want to fix her. Change it. Change it.
I want to fix her. It's that I was wanting to fix the situation between us,
She
but
feels
I
like
need
you're
to,
fixing
yeah,
her.
yes,
She's
yes.
not broken. There's nothing wrong with her. She's beautiful and amazing just as she is. Okay. Thank you guys. And thank you for those that are watching the recording. Please share this with anyone that you feel could use this message today. And again, Sarah, thank you. Thank you for partnering with me and volunteering. I will have future ones available as well. And thank you again for partnering with me and being my teacher. I learned so much from you, and I adore you and your relationship with your daughter. And I know that things are gonna go on the up. So keep me posted how things are
I
going.
will.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you so much.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Bye bye, guys.